Introduction: a story that refused to end. In modern history, few criminal cases have shaken public trust as deeply as the Jeffrey Epstein case. It is not only a story about one man, it is a story about power, silence, money, and influence. For years, Epstein moved freely among politicians, billionaires, scientists, celebrities, and royalty. He hosted private gatherings, he flew powerful people across the world. And behind closed doors, according to court records and victim testimony, a system of sexual exploitation was operating in plain sight. When Epstein died in a New York jail cell in 2019, many believed the story was over. They were wrong, because years later, thousands of documents, emails, flight logs, depositions, and sealed court records began to surface. And what they revealed raised more questions than answers. Chapter 1. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein was born in Brooklyn, New York, in 1953. He started his career as a teacher before transitioning into finance, a move that raised early questions about how he gained access to extreme wealth. By the 1980s and 1990s, Epstein had positioned himself as a financial advisor to the ultra-rich. Yet, despite his reputation, no clear public explanation ever existed for the true source of his fortune. He owned multiple properties: a Manhattan mansion, a private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, a ranch in New Mexico, luxury residences in Florida and Paris. More importantly, Epstein cultivated relationships. He didn't just know powerful people, he surrounded himself with them. Chapter 2. The First Arrest and the Deal That Shocked America. In 2005, police in Florida began investigating Epstein after multiple underage girls reported sexual abuse. The evidence was substantial. Yet in 2008, Epstein received an extremely controversial plea deal. Instead of federal prosecution, he served 13 months in a county jail with work release privileges that allowed him to leave for up to 12 hours a day. This deal protected potential co-conspirators from prosecution. At the time, the full scale of Epstein's network remained hidden. Chapter 3. 2019. The Case Returns. In July 2019, federal prosecutors arrested Epstein again. This time, the charges were far more serious: sex trafficking of minors, conspiracy to exploit underage girls across state lines. Witnesses described a pattern: recruitment of vulnerable teenagers, abuse inside Epstein's properties, payments disguised as massages, a structured system designed to maintain silence. Epstein pleaded not guilty. A trial was expected to expose everything. It never happened. Chapter 4. Death in a Cell. On August 10, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. The official ruling: suicide. But the circumstances were unusual. Cameras malfunctioned. Guards failed to follow protocol. Epstein had previously reported an assault. Public skepticism exploded. Regardless of theories, one fact remained undeniable: Epstein died before testifying, and with him, many expected the truth to disappear. Chapter 5. The files begin to emerge. Years later, sealed court documents began to be released. These were not rumors. They were sworn testimonies, depositions, and evidence submitted under oath. The files included flight logs from Epstein's private jet, contact books with hundreds of names, emails, and correspondence, witness statements from victims, internal records of Epstein's properties. Importantly, being named in these documents does not equal guilt, but it does reveal proximity. Chapter 6. Flight logs and the Lolita Express. One of the most discussed pieces of evidence is Epstein's flight logs. These logs documented who flew on his private jet, where they went, and when. The jet became known in media as the Lolita Express, a name that came from its frequent transport of young girls, according to victim testimony. Several high-profile individuals appear in these logs. Some have denied any wrongdoing, some have acknowledged association, others have refused to comment. The documents themselves do not prove crimes, but they prove access. Chapter 7. The Island and the Ranch. Epstein's private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands was a central location in many testimonies. Victims described restricted access, surveillance systems, isolation control through money and fear. Similarly, Epstein's New Mexico ranch appeared repeatedly in witness statements. Former employees described unusual security measures and strict confidentiality. These locations were not just homes, they were operational hubs. Chapter 8. What the documents actually say. As more files were unsealed, a clearer picture emerged. There is no confirmed official client list released by authorities. However, many names appear in correspondence. Some appear in travel records. Others appear in witness recollections. Legal experts stress the difference between being named, being present, being criminally responsible. This distinction matters. Chapter 9. Media, Misinformation, and Myths. The Epstein case became a magnet for conspiracy theories. Some claims circulating online are not supported by evidence. This has complicated real accountability. Investigators have repeatedly stated not all named individuals committed crimes. Many associations were social or professional. Only court-proven cases can be labeled criminal. Separating fact from fiction is essential. Chapter 10. The Victims. What often gets lost in headlines are the victims. Many were teenagers. Many came from unstable backgrounds. Many were manipulated, paid, and silenced. Some later testified in court. Others chose to remain anonymous. Their accounts share patterns: grooming, coercion, psychological control, long-term trauma. This is the core of the case. Not celebrities, not theories, human damage. Chapter 11. Why this case still matters. Epstein's death did not end the investigation. Civil lawsuits continue. Documents continue to surface. Public pressure continues. This case exposed failures in the justice system. The power of wealth to delay accountability. How institutions protect themselves. It forced a global conversation about exploitation at the highest levels. Final thoughts. Questions without answers. Jeffrey Epstein is dead, but the system that allowed him to operate for decades remains. The files do not give us every answer, but they remove the illusion that this was an isolated crime. History will remember Epstein not just as a criminal, but as a symbol of how power can hide in plain sight. And the real question is not what happened then. The real question is, could it happen again?